What's up? It's Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rides. We are here on my home turf because guess what? We got the secret information first for you from Ford. What the hell are we talking about? We're talking about what is the horsepower and the torque totals, plus some other tidbits of information on that new 2025 GTD Mustang, that $325,000 starting price Mustang. Let's go ahead without further ado. I don't want to keep you waiting because we got a bit to talk about. Let's get to it. And there is the 2025 Mustang GTD. That is that holographic blue color, which we actually brought to you in the flesh from the Miami Auto Show just a couple weeks ago. I'll leave that video at the end of this one because Lori flexed her awesome videography skills on getting all the angles of the GTD. Now, before I just dive in and just give you the information, I want to kind of give you some foundation here. Now, remember, when we talk about the price, when the price is $325,000 starting and the name Mustang is in the title of the vehicle, I know a lot of people will probably start scratching their head and saying, I am not paying that much for a Mustang. This car, remember, has a ton of bespoke parts. What does that mean? Parts that have been made specifically just for the Mustang GTD. Let's get out of the way once again that this Mustang has a transaxle. That means the transmission is at the back of the car like a Corvette, like a C7 Corvette, C6 Corvette. That helps with the balance. All of the bodywork is full carbon fiber except for the doors. And you have to remember we got magnesium wheels, and probably the biggest thing is that inboard push rod suspension from Multimatic, specifically made for this vehicle. What is Ford going after? They're going after that 7-minute barrier at the Nordschleife, the Nürburgring, and the car that's been in the crosshairs of Ford has, of course, been that 992 chassis 911 GT3 RS. It did a sub 7-minute time. Now, like I have talked about on many reviews, it's not just about horsepower. There's a lot of other factors that makes a vehicle do what it does on a racetrack. We're not just talking about straight line performance. If we were, they would get rid of that big, massive wing, which remember is a bespoke part with that drag reduction system, because that's just going to slow you down on top speed. Now, in a few seconds here, I have actual footage shot by Ford of the Predator 5.2 liter supercharged V8 on an engine dyno. And what's cool is, I'm going to let it run for a few seconds. They actually turn the lights off eventually in the room to show you the glowing titanium exhaust headers. So this has, I'm going to use that word again, bespoke full titanium exhaust. There it is on the engine dyno. You can hear that V8. And this is where they do all of their endurance testing to make sure that the engine is going to last. All those moving parts. I mean, just imagine right now. The crankshaft spinning. The 8 pistons going up and down, up and down. The camshaft, the supercharger. Look at the exhaust glow bright red from that heat. It's one of those things that you gotta do this type of testing to make sure the engines are durable. And this is when we talk about horsepower numbers, most horsepower numbers are from an engine dyno, not rear wheel horsepower, because there's less, because you lose some horsepower because of having to move in this case, the rear wheels. Now the car you're looking at right now, you're probably saying, what's going on here? That's not the GTD. That's a 2014, the last of the S197 GT500s. I wanted to bring this up because remember, this car had a supercharged V8 and it had a top speed, making it the fastest Mustang before the Mustang GTD of 201 miles per hour. And that really all came down to gearing. It's not like this vehicle has 1,000 horsepower. We're talking about 600 horsepower. But the way it's geared gives you a top speed of 201 miles an hour. That means you're traveling the length of a football field, 100 yards every single second. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is I want to keep giving you that foundation. It's like going to Outback Steakhouse and getting that bloomin' onion. It's like the layers of the bloomin' onion as you're dipping it in that special sauce, whatever the heck that stuff is. But GT500 2014, that was the last of the manual transmission GT500. Remember, I had a 6-speed manual. And that GT500 has a solid rear axle. It does not have an independent suspension. So getting power to the ground in that car is very interesting. And that's why they made the gearing the way it is. It's like, by the time you hit second, from what I remember, you could get up to 60 miles an hour in first gear. By the time you hit second, you're approaching 90 miles an hour. That is not the norm when you look at how other performance cars are geared. So gearing means a lot, and that's why a lot of race teams have specific gearing for each racetrack that they go to. You're not going to use the same gearing at Daytona that you're going to use at Le Mans. The next car I'm showing you is a 2023. That is the S550 Shelby GT500. This vehicle is important because remember, the Mustang GTD shares the 5.2 liter supercharged V8 known as the Predator. It also is going to have a DCT like the GT500. The GT500 was the first Mustang ever to have a Tremec DCT, dual clutch transmission. Now this is a 7-speed. In the Mustang GTD, it's an 8-speed. And remember, the transmission is out back. This Shelby GT500, the 2023, the last of that generation, S550, that's the name of the platform, the transmission is bolted to the back of the engine. Now, this car was a hell of a performer. You're looking at 760 horsepower, making it the most powerful production engine from Ford with 625 pound-feet of torque. So I want you to start guessing. I want you to start guessing what you think this horsepower total is going to be for the Mustang GTD. That's why I'm giving you the information. So 760 horsepower from the S550 GT500 and 625 pound-feet of torque out of a 5.2 liter supercharged V8. Now, one thing I can tell you now is that the Mustang GTD, even though it uses the same Predator engine, it's the first Mustang ever not only to have a transaxle, but also to have a dry sump oiling system. What the hell does that mean? The oil is not kept in an oil pan like it is on this 2023 GT500. The reason why is even with baffles, it could cause a lot of sloshing. The dry sump system has a separate reservoir that feeds the right amount of oil to the engine, and you won't get starvation on the twisty bits of the Nordschleife. The last car, before I lay down the info, the last car we have to talk about is the 2025 C8 ZR1. Talk about horsepower and talk about just dropping it like an atomic freaking bomb on everybody and making everybody's jaws hit the floor. 5.5 liter flat plane crankshaft V8, forged internals, forged rods, forged crank, extra set of fuel injectors, twin turbos, 1,064 horsepower, 828 pound-feet of torque. Guess what? This car was not on the radar of Ford when they were developing the Mustang GTD. Because remember, the Z06 was what was available as of now. ZR1's not coming until the beginning of 2025. So when I was talking with the engineers at Chevy, they knew that the Mustang GTD was coming, and they wanted to really just drop it on them and say, hey, this is what we're bringing. Now, remember, with the ZR1, you don't get a lot of bespoke parts. Yes, there's a few, niceties like the big, huge wing, carbon fiber rear wing and stuff, the frunk, that hood area with its individual radiator. Those are unique just to the ZR1 compared to a Stingray, compared to an E-Ray, compared to a Z06. But we're not talking about different suspension. We're not talking about different transmission. And we're definitely not talking about all the bodywork being made out of carbon fiber, like the Mustang GTD. And we also can't forget it does have carbon ceramic brake rotors and, of course, those magnesium wheels. So, are you ready? Here it comes. For the 2025 Mustang GTD, starting price $325,000, you're looking at 815 horsepower, 664 pound-feet of torque. So if you look at the information for the S550 GT500, that is about 55 more horsepower than the Predator that's in the GT500. And you're looking at about 41 more pound-feet of torque. Now, when it comes to why I showed you the 2014 GT500 top speed for the Mustang GTD, it will be the fastest Mustang production street car ever. It's 202 miles per hour, so it's 1 mile per hour faster top speed than the 2014 Shelby GT500. So let me know what your thoughts are right now in that comment section, because I'm gonna chat here for a little bit longer, but it's interesting because I am a firm believer it's not outright horsepower that wins at the end of the day. But we all know, especially here in the United States, bigger is better, more is better, and people that are doing the bench racing at cars and coffee events are going to be like, how stupid is the Mustang GTD? It just got beat by the ZR1 before either of them turned on and faced one another because of the horsepower difference. Now, we don't know, and there's a pretty killer picture that I got from Ford of that Predator V8, which, like I said, inside, totally different when we look at the forged internals compared to the GT500 from 2023. So even though it's the same displacement, we are looking at different things on the inside, and especially that dry sump oil system. Now, because of the dry sump oil system, the Mustang GTD can rev out to 7,650 RPM. That's about 100 RPM higher than the GT500 from 2023. So take that for what it's worth. It also has an extra gear in the gearbox because it's got an 8-speed DCT from Tremec, not a 7-speed. So gearing is going to be interesting. And then the other number I'm probably might even be more curious about than the horsepower is, believe it or not, the weight. Because weight can really make a big difference to where you don't have to have the highest amount of horsepower. Now, in Ford's defense, a supercharger will never make as much horsepower as turbochargers. Because how does a turbocharger work? A turbocharger works from the exhaust gas coming out of the engine, spinning the propellers. In the case of the ZR1, it's 2 propellers because it's a twin turbo, spinning the little propellers inside the turbos, and then that air being rammed back in, forced, that's why they call it forced induction, rammed back in to the engine. And the higher that engine spins, the faster those propellers spin, and the more forced induction you get. Case in point, 1,064 horsepower. With a supercharger, It's not exactly the same. You got to remember that the supercharger is driven by the engine. What do I mean by that? There is a supercharger pulley, which for the Mustang GTD is smaller than the one on the Shelby GT500. Because it is smaller in diameter, it spins faster, which spins the blower inside the supercharger to force more air into the engine. But the supercharger creates some drag where the turbochargers do not. Creates drag on, so you're actually using some horsepower to make horsepower. Whereas the turbochargers, you're not losing any horsepower because the gas is coming out whether you're going at 200 miles an hour or you're going 150 miles an hour. So that is the big difference when it comes to forced induction. And you might be saying to me, well, Joe, are you disappointed? I am a little bit. I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I was thinking it was going to be 850 horsepower. And actually, Chevrolet thought it was going to be 850 horsepower because that was the number that they were originally gunning for with the ZR1 was 850 horsepower. But when they thought that the GTD might have that, that's when they decided to just go all in and just, you know, blow everybody away. Like I said, it was like an atomic bomb was dropped. And I think it was dropped on Ford, to be honest with you, if you're looking just at horsepower. I'm a little also kind of bummed out that it doesn't have more torque. As it doesn't have much more torque. I mean, 41 more pound-feet of torque, I mean, that's good. But it's all going to play out on how the car is geared. So before you go running up and down the streets of your neighborhood without any clothes on, yelling that the ZR1 just beat the Mustang GTD, I would keep your shorts on. Take your shirt off if you want and do that, but keep your shorts on because until we get the cars side by side, until we get the cars on a track, that's going to be the big factor. Now, if you are comparing this to the 911 GT3 RS, like Ford was, guess what? The GTD on paper beats the GT3 RS. It has more horsepower per liter. Because remember, the GT3 RS has a 4-liter flat 6, naturally aspirated, making about 520 horsepower. This has a 5.2-liter supercharged V8, making 815 horsepower, 664 pound-feet of torque. So I'm hoping that this is good education for you. I'm trying my best not to be like everybody else out there and just compare numbers. Numbers really don't tell the whole story. And at the end of the day, let's get real. Yes, the car is going to cost $325,000 plus. But those people who are lucky enough, first of all, to get approved to buy one, and then have the cash to buy one, are getting a bespoke built, yes, Mustang, but this GTD, when you park it next to the Mustang GT3 that races in the GTD class in the IMSA WeatherTech series, the cars are like identical. Plus, on top of that, you have the drag reduction system, which the race car is not allowed to run because of the rules. So it really all depends on, you know, is this Mustang GTD built for everybody? Of course not. And you know what? I guess for those who want to brag to their friends and they're overcompensating for things and, you know, they got a whole drawer of socks packed down deep somewhere right below the belt, ZR1 might be the way to go because of being able to tell the horsepower. It's going to be interesting to see how the ZR1 drives. Obviously, it's going to be fast, but, you know, it's all about the balance, which creates that perfect lap around a racetrack. So I have nothing else left to share with you as of right now. Those are the numbers. I'm waiting on the wait. If you want to play a fun game, if you like playing spin the bottle, if you like making out with somebody in the closet when the light's off, Here, let's play a game. And no, I'm not making out with you. I'm going to guesstimate that the weight of the Mustang GTD is probably going to be 3,500 pounds, 3,500 pounds. That's my guess. If you look at a Mustang Dark Horse, that car weighs 4,000 pounds. The reason why I'm not going under 3,500 is because the Mustang GTD is still a big car. A lot of this special suspension stuff that they're putting on the car weighs. It weighs extra. So that's my guesstimate. You know, don't hold me to it, but that's my guesstimation is 3,500 pounds. But let me know in the comments section how you're feeling right now, because I think I've been able to share everything that I've been feeling, knowing this information. Very curious to think how you feel about thinking that this is, what, probably going to be $125,000 or more than a ZR1 ZTK. That's Lori's favorite option, by the way. The ZTK, that's the one that she would get. She's actually getting a ZTK tattoo on her back next week. So, and a picture of a ZR1, of course. But let me know in the comment section how you feel about all these things, what your thoughts are, which way would you go if you had infinite mounds of cash, like Scrooge McDuck. Let me know down in that comment section. But if you're new to the channel and you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Raise Rides family. We got to give it up to the people I love the most. Yes, you guys, but I do love Lori and Oscar just a little bit more. So thank God for them, because they set up this whole environment, and you know, Oscar's doing a good job as a director. Thank you, Oscar. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.